Hello and welcome back. I'm so glad that you're here because, again, it just shows that you're that healthcare worker, that professional healthcare worker that is destined to heal your heart from everything you experience every day so you can keep coming back and doing the great work you were designed to do. And you know, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You were designed to care for people. That is intertwined into your DNA. And it is very easy as a healthcare professional to lose sight of all the important things that come in your way, that you face, all of those challenges that sometimes leave you thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this anymore. And I'm sure that you've noticed this pretty much everywhere you go. We are not generally seeing the best of people. I mean, you know this. Instead, what we see in place of all the good things is people that are frustrated and angry and annoyed and, all of those negative emotions. So I'm asking you, and actually I'm inviting you to recommit to your passion of caring. And why am I asking you to do this? I'm asking you to do this not just for yourself, but I'm asking you to do this for all of those people that you serve. And I'm here to remind you that we care for people. You know this. The people that we provide care to, they are sick and they need healing. And the way that you provide care to people absolutely affects their ability to heal. In fact, the way that you interact even with your coworkers and your boss and your patients and their families and the visitors and even your vendors absolutely affects healing because we are all human beings. And if you haven't figured it out yet, our energy travels between us. So if you're having a great day, chances are that energy is going to pass off to the people that you serve. But if everybody's having a bad day, chances are it's going to have a ripple and it's going to affect everyone that you serve. And listen, I'm not talking about you having a bad day. I'm talking about you having a series of bad days where every single thing seems to go wrong. And as a result, you find yourself easily frustrated, easily annoyed, and moving a step away from your purpose on this earth, which is to care for people. Remember, this is your superpower. When you put that cape on and you know that you are able to deliver care, that is what you bring to this earth. And I want you to be that best superhero out there, that person that can deliver care in a way regardless of what's happening around you. And you know this, these days, most people that you come in contact with, they are one strike away from an external explosion. And that reality, to me, that reality just makes me profoundly saddened. It saddens my spirit, and I am sure it saddens you too, because I know this. You're probably just like me. You are so sick and tired of seeing it in the day-to-day. This lack of caring for one another. This quick ability to be reactionary through all of our emotions instead of responding in a way that promotes love and healing instead. And I want you to really think about this because all day long, we miss the mark sometimes. Instead of us responding with this spirit of caring and compassion, instead, we allow all those other experiences, all of those other feelings that we are exposed to surface up into our heart, to enter into our minds, and to come out in our mouths and our bodies through our language. And so today, I am looking for you to help me. And I'm looking for you to help all healthcare workers all around the globe to really take that time out to self-reflect and to be self-aware of what is happening around you every single day before you go down the road of responding to any situation. You know this. Here you are at work. You're asking a coworker for something and they snap at you. And then what's your immediate response? Not to look at that situation and say, wonder what's going on with John today. Something seems to be off. Instead, we respond the same way, in frustration and anger, and we get annoyed. And I'm going to remind you, when everyone is doing that, it 100% affects healing. What about that family member that comes up to you and they are frustrated and they are yelling, sometimes screaming at you because they can't understand why that care delivery is not happening in a way, or they're getting that communication in a way that's going to promote healing? What do? And this is what I want you to think about this. I want you to really walk away with this idea and this concept today that it only takes one person to make real change happen in any organization. And what if you took that superpower that you were put on this earth to do, that professional healthcare and healer, and instead of choosing to respond in anger and frustration, instead you made a conscious choice to respond in a calm, loving, and kind way. And after today, I'm going to ask that you be that one person. See, you get to choose every single day the way you respond. You know this. You don't get to choose how someone reacts to you. That's what happens here in life school. There are lots and lots of people that are having lots and lots of reactions to you every single day. You are exposed to that pretty much everywhere you go. But you get to choose how you respond. And this is where the deep, hard work begins. Because again, if you look at our world, I'm going to remind you that this is what people are doing all around you. This is what they're exposed to every single day. So should be of no surprise that people enter into your healthcare facility and this is the way they respond to when they see their loved one in pain and suffering. And instead of us responding with that spirit of love and compassion and caring for another person and really looking for the goodness in others, we respond in a way that is not going to promote healing. We are being activated by that person and we are allowing ourselves to be activated in a way that is absolutely 100% going to affect the way healing occurs. And then if you think about it, even the way we were designed as human beings, we have this beautiful fight or flight emotional response, but it naturally predisposes us to send us all into a fighting rage if we're not incredibly careful. And it's designed to signal all of us that danger is afoot, that if we're not careful and we're not taking an immediate action, we could find that something dreadful will happen to us. But what I want you to realize is in our day and age, in fact, the world that we live in, what makes this so incredibly challenging is that we are all have access to technology. That is in our fingertips. It's in our phones. It's around us 24/7. And never before in history have we ever seen such a poor response to people in these highly stressful situations. And why is that? It's because it's at your fingertips and you can scroll through it and see it happening every single day. But I'm also going to remind you The scary thing about technology is all those algorithms that learn the types of emotional responses that feed into you. And those algorithms send more of that to you. And so we all, especially healthcare workers, need to be conscious of that. We need to be aware that that is what we are exposed to. And if we are not careful, it will become the way we deliver care. So why does it matter? Because I'm going to remind you, this is your job here in life school. You're a healer. Your kind and loving and empathetic response, that might be the only amazing and good thing that happens to a person that you come in contact with every single day. And there is incredible power in the way you respond to a situation. Listen, you know this. When you are the type of person where you naturally seek the goodness in other people, you're going to feel lighter and happier, and you're going to start noticing things differently. That because you're looking at things in a lighter way with a spirit of joy and love in the world that you're involved in every single day, it is going to impact those people that are around you. It's going to impact your patients. It's going to impact their families. It's going to impact other providers, peers, visitors, all of it. Because people want to be around people that are extraordinary in nature. I mean, if you haven't figured it out, nobody wants to be around people that are complaining and are unhappy and that are frustrated and are angry. And when you do the deep work on your own emotional system and you really look at this from a different lens, you are going to notice this in other people very, very easily. And you're going to recognize that those feelings that are bombarding you and hitting you have the propensity to spill out into others if you are not careful in controlling the way you are responding to those situations. And I'm also going to remind you, as a healthcare worker, you must constantly remember and recall every single day that we are in the business of caring for people. I mean, it's not like people are coming to the spa for 2 weeks and they are going to be exposed to all these great and amazing things that are going to bring them joy, calmness, happiness, and peace every single day. The people that come to you are not operating at their personal best. And there are so many stressors that are upon them. And you have these too, these same exact stressors. So all it takes is just the right conditions for sort of this cataclysmic response to happen. And those are the types of responses that I'm going to remind you are never ones that make you feel good inside. They are not the ones that sit with you and make you feel joy. They will sit with you for many, many years, and you will often remember the way that situation happened and the way you responded. And listen, I'm not going to sit here and say I have not responded poorly in a situation when I've been angry or I've been in pain or I've been dealing with a situation medically for a long period of time. I'm a human being. Of course that happens. But as a healthcare worker, that's where I want you to go first. I want you to go to that place that when people are not well, when they're experiencing pain, when they're experiencing chronic medical conditions, and they can't be their absolute best or they're not feeling their absolute best, what you are going to naturally see is not going to be the best of them. And you're certainly not going to see the best of their families and those people that love them. And I'm going to remind you, if you want to heal your heart from everything that you experience every single day, that's going to start by you recognizing that you need to recommit to caring for people, and you need to take ownership of your piece in this whole equation. And you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about those moments where your behaviors, the ones that you carry with you around every day, that those behaviors inadvertently are like adding fuel to that fire. And I'm asking for you to recommit to a new way of working, to recommit to a new way of responding. So instead of responding and reacting in a way that is triggered, that you are triggered by that experience, instead you respond with love. And I will tell you, this power of love is tremendous when it comes to healthcare. And I'm not talking about the woo-woo love. I'm just talking about a feeling of love, that someone cares for you, that they're taking that feeling and they're transferring it to you in those interactions. It just reminds me back in the 1990s of the great research that was done by Charles Nelson. And, I kind of can visually go back in time and really see those photos, those videos and photos of children that were in these Romanian orphanages. And he did all of this research and study of the children in that time period, where these children, because of what was happening in the country, all of these children were abandoned, and they were in these orphanages where in the day-to-day, every single day, when they were small and tiny children, there was just not enough healthcare workers or childcare workers to actually show every single child love, attention, or give them physical touch. And what I love from that research is that what we learned is that all of those children that were adopted and they were put in these loving, supportive family homes showed significant improvements in not just their physical and emotional states, but also cognitive development had improved. And when they looked at that compared to the children that remained in that institutionalized care where they were not exposed to that, they could see very easily that there was power in nurturing and loving care when it comes to recovery and development of us as human beings. And to me, that is the most powerful work that's out there. When you really think about this, and you think about your purpose on this earth is to take that superpower of being that person who was designed to care for people. That is your gifts and your talents and your skills. And because of that superpower, it means that you have to find and seek out ways to show self-compassion, not just towards yourself, but show compassion to those that you provide care to. And that you have to respond to yourself with love, regardless of the situation, to be able to give love. And that's what I love so much about life. It is just a journey that is full of you seeing all these different perspectives. Really think about all through the course of your entire life, all the different perspectives that you've been exposed to. So many times when you look at it, it's somebody else's perspective that helped you see something totally different. And that you weren't dialed into that other person's perspective. And because of that, you weren't seeing the full and complete picture. And that happens to us as human beings because sometimes we're just narrow-minded and we're focused on what's happening around us. And because of that, it's very easy to forget about the people that are around us in every single situation. That coworker that is frustrated and angry, and you ask them to do something or you ask them for help, and instead they responded in a way that they were short with you. And instead of us turning around and responding in a way that pushes that person towards feelings of love, we respond in an emotional way and we get frustrated just like them. And then what do you think happens in that situation as a healthcare worker? Well, I'm telling you, it absolutely 100% travels around your healthcare centers and it affects the way care is delivered to everyone. And that is why it's so incredibly powerful. And I want you to imagine that what if instead you could just retrain your mind to look at these situations very differently. And instead of reacting, you just took 3 nice, cleansing, deep breaths, filling your lungs with air, inhaling and exhaling, and picturing someone or something that you love. And in those moments when you're concentrating on those deep breaths, you're allowing the feelings of love to overcome your body. I mean, why am I asking you to do that? Because you're a healer. And if you've been around somebody that's wound up like a top, you know that the way a person responds is going to be poor. And it is absolutely going to have a negative impact on a person's ability to heal. It happens 1,000% of the time. Every single time. And so I know this. You're a healthcare worker and you're committed to being the best healthcare worker out there. That's why you're on this podcast, listening in, and you're working hard to change the way you respond in every situation. And that might just be your journey here in life school. Like, can you learn how to respond in every single situation, regardless what's happening around you? And instead, can you channel these other types of feelings, feelings that are associated with love? You know, like kindness. And I love kindness. I mean, every single day I'm looking for people that are delivering that act of kindness. All it takes is one kind act to change somebody for that day. And I'm going to tell you, for me, when I educate and I go into healthcare centers and I'm working with staff, I'm always searching for those people where that one act of kindness, maybe where they're struggling and I bend down to help somebody, or I commit to just being and responding to someone in a kind and thoughtful way, how that's going to impact the way that person is made to feel in a course of a day. It's 100% possible by every single one of you as healthcare workers, because I'm going to remind you, it's part of your DNA. It's how you are wired. You are wired to care. And this takes courage sometimes to do this and to do it well, because people are people and they come from all different backgrounds. And sometimes you don't know what somebody is experiencing, which leads you to your ability to use empathy. You know what empathy is. Empathy is our ability as human beings to try to understand another person's perspective. And what I know about empathy, because I've studied it so much, is that you have to be willing to do it. That's why sometimes you don't see people having an empathic response. You have to be willing to do it. And it doesn't mean that you understand that person's perspective fully. Like, I don't know what it would feel like to lose a spouse because I've never gone through that experience. But I can understand how difficult and challenging the loss of a spouse may be on a person. I can understand and recognize how difficult and challenging that response may be and cause stress for that individual. I can understand how that may be the result of the way someone responds to me, and I don't take that personally because I show compassion, and I am a healthcare worker and someone that is designed to respond in compassion instead. So how's compassion different? Well, I want to believe that as healthcare workers, this is one of our greatest superpowers. I mean, these are the natural healers that are out there that understand and recognize that compassion is our ability as human beings to notice pain and suffering in another person. And we are compelled to alleviate that pain and suffering. We do that naturally and automatically. We don't walk by people. We know something needs to be done, and we do that. And that can be, again, incredibly hard because look at our world today. Where are you seeing that people are doing this freely all over? And I know when I spot stories of this, where I see this, whether it's in the news or in a magazine or on social media, I am so excited and moved by that because it gives me great hope for humanity that people are responding to people in times of need. And I'm also going to remind you as a healthcare worker, one of the things that you have to always keep in mind is this ability to really respond and manage yourself with a very calm demeanor. And this is really hard for people. I'm going to tell you, there are people that this takes a lot of work. This took a lot of work for me. Listen, everybody that knows me knows that I love life. I love everything about life. I'm super passionate about just being here another day on this earth. So I always want to experience that. And I think some of that came from my experience as a nurse, where I saw people in pain and suffering, and I saw people, that had medical conditions that came overnight, and it changed their life overnight. And they weren't guaranteed a tomorrow. And I think being exposed to that as a healthcare worker is one of those reasons why I'm so passionate about our time here in life school. I mean, I don't want to be that person that wastes that time. But I also recognize the importance of having a calm demeanor when somebody is frustrated or angry. It can be very soothing to a person's soul. It can be the one thing that prevents a situation from escalating and getting worse. Just like respect is the same. I mean, even when people are upset, even when you are upset and you desperately want to take your frustration out on another person, what if instead you constantly worked at maintaining this really strong level of civility, and you, in your interactions, made sure you treated people with respect every single day? And this is hard for people because, it's really easy when you connect with the people that are like you. It's really hard to do this when someone is your polar opposite. So, if you have a patient or a coworker that doesn't look at the world like you do, chances are you're not going to want to respond in a way, or it's not going to make you want to feel like you are going to respond in a way that's always going to land well. Sometimes we just miss the mark when it comes to respect, and we do that in our responses, in our tone, in our body language, and sometimes it's just our ability as human beings to not dismiss somebody. And that can be really hard for people here in life school. It takes a lot of self-control to manage your emotional response. And it can be hard for people because I'm asking you as a healthcare worker to sort of make this sort of cognitive recognition that when you embrace an optimistic approach, when you believe that what you are doing and how you handle a situation. And when you do it in a positive manner, by taking a few seconds out of your day to take those couple deep breaths and make that choice that you're going to respond in a way that's appropriate. When you do that, you influence behavior and you support more positive outcomes. That comes from you. And yes, does it take patience? Of course it does. You are learning and growing, and you're not going to be at mastery when you're first doing this. And that's what I love about patience. I love that they often refer to patience being a virtue. That's what makes it so hard. And for healthcare workers, what makes it incredibly hard is we are compelled to have to rush and do things in a quick way. And I'm going to remind you, when it comes to interactions with human beings, I'm asking you to think first and take a few seconds out to think about how you can change the way you're responding so that you can promote healing instead through love. And that's also going to require, as a healthcare worker, slowing down your pace and getting really good at developing your listening skills. Now, I'm not talking about just developing your listening skills. I'm talking about developing active listening skills. And I always loved this saying. We were designed with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Think about that. We're supposed to be listening more and talking less so we can really understand. And as healthcare workers, I see sometimes this happens. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I'm always working towards it, making sure I'm working hard at asking a lot of questions and coming to a situation with a spirit of curiosity and awe. Like, not fix that I know all the answers, because we don't. We're only seeing a sliver of what is happening around us. And sometimes when it comes to active listening, where I see healthcare workers really making big mistakes is that they interrupt maybe a patient or their family members, or they dismiss their concerns. They minimize them. They don't take ownership for it, or even show an empathic response of saying, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I mean, think about that. How could that change healthcare altogether if that was the response of every single healthcare worker when a family member or a patient or a visitor or a friend or anybody that they came in contact with, when they were frustrated about everything that was going on, instead of feeling the need to interrupt them or stop them or come up with a reason why that feeling is not valid for them. Instead, what if all they did was listen and ask questions, and in the end of it, gave that empathic response of, I'm sorry that happened to you. And people tell me this all the time. I'm not doing it because if I say I'm sorry, then people are going to think that I did something wrong. And I always remind people, you're not doing it to place blame. You're doing it to show empathy. You're sorry it happened. And how will that change healthcare if that is the way every single healthcare worker responds to pain, suffering, and stress and concerns, because those are things that are outside of that control. And that's where the deep work begins. It begins with you recognizing that this is all within your power. You have it all in the palm of your hand. It's right here. And you get to make that choice every single day. And I'm also going to remind you, when you're engaging in that active listening, be tuned in to your body language and make sure you're finding ways to positively express that body language in an open and friendly way. This is really hard for some people. And I love the 5, 10, 15 rule. Listen, I don't even know who made it up, but I love it, especially for healthcare workers. Just think about this. Well, even when you're walking around the supermarkets or you're out about in a store, you can practice this, and not just in your healthcare setting, and begin to notice the differences. So what is the 5-10-15 rule? Well, it's when you come in contact, when you are 15 feet away from a person, you, instead of putting your head down and looking downward and trying to dart away from somebody, because heaven forbid you make eye contact with a person because they may ask you to do something, you maintain eye contact. You actually train your mind to actually make eye contact with that individual. And then when you get 10 feet from that person, you initiate a smile. And this is hard for some people. And then when you are only 5 feet away, you simply say hello to someone. That's it. It's that simple. It's that 15 feet away, you make the eye contact. 10 feet away, you give them that big smile. And 5 feet away, you say hello. And that reassurance is something that you can do by just in your body language, by just showing people that you care. That's a way to show that you care. And I'm going to remind you to never forget that fear is a huge piece of the equation when it comes to healing. It's huge for our patients, for their loved ones, for their visitors, families, everybody, right? Every single day when you come into work, you know exactly what to do. Well, hopefully you know exactly what to do. I always say this when I do education. If someone comes in and there's a certain medical condition, chances are you know exactly what to do. You know what the care plan's going to look like. You know what the treatment's going to be. You have the ability to have that knowledge in your head. But the people that you serve, they are full of fear because they don't know any of that. Not only do they know any of that, they are wondering what else is going to happen to them when that shoe is going to drop. I mean, that's the feeling that they walk around with. So as a healthcare professional, you get to reassure them just by painting that picture for them and showing them exactly what to expect. And you do that in your communication, through education, and just by asking somebody, how you doing today? How you doing? And noticing how they respond. And when someone is afraid, and I don't need to teach you what it looks like when someone is afraid, you know this. You can see fear in someone's body language. You can see it in their eyes. You can see it in their tone of voice. And you can see that people need reassurance. That, again, is your superpower, should you choose to use it. But if you are so focused on getting all your tasks done and you miss the mark of giving that person an opportunity to just connect with them in a different way, by reassuring them and helping them get through a difficult time, by encouraging them and inspiring them and just giving them hope that today is not going to be the end of your story. That for many of our patients that we serve, they're going to get through this and they're going to be healed. And for those that aren't going to be healed, where it is the end of their story, your presence might just be the most important thing to settle a person's soul. And I'm always going to remind you that I feel like for us as healthcare workers, the best part of the work that we do here in Life School is that we get to learn from every single experience. Every single one. And I know this because when I was a early leader, I really felt it was necessary that I needed to take all the experiences I had and to tell them to all my team members so they didn't experience those things firsthand. It wasn't until I had a great mentor that said to me, Arleen, let me ask you a question. How do you learn best? And I remember thinking about it and saying, I guess it's from my mistakes. And she said, bingo, right? We are all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have experiences that don't land the way they should. When we learn from those experiences and we decide and determine, because we've self-reflected and we've looked inward and we've examined it fully, and we've looked at it and said, what could I have done differently? Not what can the other person do differently? What can I have done differently? That is where the change happens, because you can't worry about what other people shoulda, coulda, would have done. You can only worry about what you could have done and how you might have handled that experience differently. And to learn ways to heal your heart from everything that you experience, that means you committing to wanting to learn how to do these practices yourself. That means you recognizing and taking this pledge or promise that you're going to draw a line in the sand and you are going to say to yourself, I'm not going to allow myself to be activated by other people's emotional responses anymore. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to make that choice to disrupt that energy that's bubbling up inside of me, and I am going to instead take a couple deep breaths. I'm going to picture something that gives me great joy or gives me love, and I'm going to send those feelings out into the universe. And when I do that, I'm going to recognize that there's power in that, and it's going to change the way the people that are interacting with you respond. And you know this as a healthcare worker. You've learned this through your education, that the most beautiful thing about us as human beings is our homeostasis response. You know, we're designed to be in balance. And when we're not in balance, we are not weighted properly. And we are going to experience all different types of systems. I mean, every single body system responds in that way. And so that's your call to action. Because if you just recognize that by you disrupting all that energy that's swirling around outside of you, and you make that conscious choice that I'm not going to allow that to enter into me. I'm going to put my shield up, and instead of being activated, I'm going to recognize that I can send love instead. And this is going to be hard for so many people. Listen, I know it's going to be hard because A, we're not perfect, and B, there are people out there that are triggering you every single day. And so this is where the deep work happens. You need to know what triggers you so that you can be self-aware and you can look for it. And I always tell this to people. You know, when you're practicing this art, you have to treat it like it's the nose on your face. Like when you look in the mirror or when you're looking out, you can always see the tip of your nose, right? If you look forward. It's that obvious. You don't forget you have a nose. You know it's there because you're seeing it all the time. It's that obvious. And that's how we have to treat all of these triggers and these things that happen to us. We have to treat them like I'm going to look at it, like I'm going to seek it out to make sure that I'm finding and spotting them in my environment. And should I see them, that's when I'm going to say to myself, all right, Arleen, this is your time to take a couple deep breaths and to picture something that gives me joy or to send love to another person instead. And when you do that, when you practice and practice and practice and build in those natural pauses, and instead of reacting, you respond with the spirit of love, then you take that superpower that you were gifted with here in life school and you spread it around to everybody. You spread it around to the world. And you did that because that was a conscious choice that you made. And you recognize that that is necessary to really promote healing, to help others heal from their pain and sadness. And you know, when you help others heal, you heal yourself as well. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you took some lesson from this podcast. And I look forward to you joining a future podcast. And if you don't hear it enough, thank you for everything you do every single day. You are making a difference. You are doing the work you were designed to do, and you are learning how to show care and compassion and empathy in every single situation. So for that, I'm truly thankful. Goodbye, everyone.